Hey everyone, it's the host of All Across America, Marco Vig. Thank you for being a listener. The show is free, of course. All I ask of you is that you share it with friends and give us a review on Spotify or Apple. And it would be great to hear from you. We're on Instagram at All Across America or visit our new website, allacrossamerica.com. I try to respond personally to everybody who reaches out, so say hello. All right, on with the show. Podcasting from Portland East to Portland West, from Big Pine Key to Pacific Beach, and from San Juan to Guam, this is All Across America. We're honored to have Joshua Parrish, who is a caddy, long-time caddy, 18 years at the most famous golf course in the United States, Pebble Beach. In addition to being a caddy, Josh is a very talented man. He's also a fine artist, so we'll hear a little bit more about that. He's known on social media as the Caddy Whisperer, so please check him out. But Josh, welcome to the show.
I'm super happy to be here.
All right. Very happy to have you.
With the list of guests you've had, quite the honor. And
well,
I gotta say,
we're honored to have you, and a caddy at the most famous golf course in the United States, and saying a lot. And again, you've got a very talented man. And but wanted to ask one thing. I was researching Pebble Beach, and I think I told you when we talked. I've walked the course a little bit, and so I've been out there. I've been to St. Andrews, but I mean, Pebble Beach has got to be the most famous golf course in the United States. What are your thoughts on that?
And I'm not trying to be biased. I've played Cypress Point, which is always a top 3 according to Golf Digest's best courses. But I prefer Pebble Beach from pretty much from every aspect. From probably the main aspect that I judge a course's greatness is by memorability. Shot for shot. There's so many shots, individual shots at Pebble Beach that are shots that you remember for a lifetime. And there's no other course I've ever played where I can remember as many shots from the first round I played it. And my first round at Pebble, even 16 years later, I still remember a lot of the shots. It was a pretty wild first round at Pebble Beach. Yeah. It was under some stressful circumstances. So the adrenaline was pumping, which is increasing blood flow, awareness, being present. And, I didn't execute as well as I would have liked to, but given the circumstances, I was still proud of my first round of golf there.
All right. Did you caddy before playing, or did you play before caddying there?
I played for. This is one of those things where I don't even know if I should share it, but it's something that I've wanted to share. The first time I ever played there, I was working there for 2 years. The first year you work there, you don't even get to play there one day. Wow. I was working there about 18 months, and I was caddying in the Champions Tour event there for this guy, Jim Borky, that worked for Michelin Tires. And it was Memorial Day weekend. And he said, if I make the cut on Sunday, top 10 to play with, 2 Champions Tour pros, I'm not going to play. So just grab a buddy, throw your bib on him, and go be Jim Borky for the day and play with the pros. So nobody really knew who I was. And I went for it. I went in there as a Michelin Tire upper executive at 29 years old, and and I played, and I had a heck of a day. It was pretty stressful. I walked backwards to the first tee because I didn't want anybody to recognize me, and my buddy was just crazy enough to caddy for me that was also a caddy. And I had a few memorable moments. I think I shot just north of 80, but I missed a hole-in-one on 7 by about 3 inches. And I chipped in an amazing birdie on hole number 8 right after that.
The question everybody's going to ask you is, did you tip well?
Oh, I I honestly I can't remember, but if I didn't tip well, I 100% should have. Um,
I'm sure you would have heard about it if you didn't.
yeah, yeah, yeah. It was one of my best friends. I think he just, I don't know, did me a solid, and it was pretty funny when we got towards the end. One of the caddies was kind of like looking at me funny, and I was like, "Hey, I'm just gonna let you know right now, like I'm not Jim Borky," and he was like, "Who are you?" And I was like, I'm his caddy. He told me to take his place, and he's like, "Damn, you got a big set of balls." And so he ended up telling the other two pros, and they didn't bring it up during the round, but the two pros came up to me after the round and were high-fiving me and saying, "Way to go, good for you. That was very bold." And
Nice.
I
Well,
hope
I
you have
mean,
a
it
blast.
sounds like you've already been given the seal of approval. So,
Yeah.
so what's it like becoming a caddy at Pebble Beach? Describe the whole, like how you even
Yeah.
show up and.
Yeah. Well, there's no education level requirement. Um, they do a background check to make sure you're not a criminal.
Really?
And there's 1 week of training that has more to do with etiquette and how you're positioned, more than it is about the yardages and the green reading. So basically, you just gotta, show that you can take direction well from the trainers, and you're not completely a fish out of water, and that you're easygoing, and then you're hired after 1 week of training. Then after that, you're on your own. You're on your own,
Is
and
there like a caddy hierarchy? We used to have the name tags,
yeah,
and there would be B caddies and A caddies. So how
yeah.
does that work?
We don't have any labelings as far as like we don't have an exact. We go 100% off of a seniority system, and
Oh
it's
wow,
hire date. So the day you're hired is the order in which you'll go out every single day. And
really?
I'm number 27.
Wow.
I'm number 27 technically at Spyglass Hill at the Pebble Beach Resort, but due to um, the requests that I have, which are around 400 a year, 400 rounds of golf. I'm requested, but I only work about 180 to 200, and the majority of them are at Pebble Beach. So I probably do 65% of my rounds at Pebble Beach and another
Okay.
30 or 35 at Spyglass Hill because people usually go there and play Spyglass and Pebble Beach.
Gotcha. Okay. So you hook up
Yeah.
with somebody at Pebble Beach and they say, "Hey, come with me to the next round."
Yeah, yep, that's how it begins. That's how it begins. And then it's people just calling you personally and saying, "Hey, are
Okay.
you around this year?" Because Pebble Beach has a big time return rate. People, once they get a little taste of Pebble Beach,
Yeah.
there's kind of no going back because
Yeah.
there's no resort really on the planet that offers as much luxury um, and quality golf. I mean, the courses stay in country club conditions year round. I mean, they're rolling at 11 minimum. Um, like today was probably closer to 12 with some release on the green, so they're firm and they're small. So I mean, it's like borderline U.S. Open conditions, but with
Right.
much, much, much shorter rough. But that said, with small greens, you get a little out of position. Um, it's still a good test, even without the rough.
And so, how many rounds you do in a year? You call them loops or,
Yeah.
or rounds?
I mean, I always call them rounds, but a lot of people call them loops. Like it's
All right.
usually either loops or rounds, one or
All
the
right.
other. I like to do 180 to 200 would be the maximum that I do, which is for a senior caddy, I would put myself on the middle to low end of
Okay.
total rounds. Um, I prefer to just always be fresh, not be worn out, um, and work enough that I'm going to save money. I just don't think I'm going to get rich exactly doing this. So I would just like to just be fresh, just be energized, like be there when I want to be there. I work 99% requests for the year. Um, so a couple days a year, quite literally 2 to 5 days a year, I will show up at the bench, use my seniority, and work for a random person, which is kind of nice. Just
Sure
for
is.
just for a change because there's no expectations. I've kind of created a monster with the social media, and so when people, which is a big majority of my business, not a big majority, probably 50% return clients or referrals, and then 50% is, somebody that somebody on Instagram that's reached out for me to catch
Wow.
for them. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. And I
That's
can't
amazing.
even, yeah, I mean, I can't even do, like I said, I get requested close to 400 rounds. But some days I'll be booked like two, three, four, five different groups will request me on the same day. You know, and but that's where I hook my friends up. I go,
There you
well, I
go.
can't work for you, but I'm going to get you one of the best caddies at the resort. And so I set
Nice.
people up with a lot of great caddies, and I work my schedule purely around clients or requests,
That's
and
great.
which is great. I make my own schedule. There's no
Nice.
set anything. We're private contractors at Pebble Beach,
Right.
and we literally work as much or as little as we want. And we do have a handful of caddies that caddy over 400 rounds a year,
Wow.
which going twice a day, semi regularly, um, very challenging. I don't think my body's built for it, but uh, for me, it's the mental drain of trying to give somebody, um, an all time experience at, to me, the
That's
greatest
true.
court on the
That's
planet.
true. Yeah, I mean, you're not doing a 2 o'clock round of somebody that's played the same course 100 times at a local course like I've done. I've done
Yeah,
45 holes in a day caddying, and it's a lot.
really.
I mean, it's nice. It's a nice wad of cash at the end of the day. But
Yeah, yeah, for
no,
sure,
I
for sure.
did two loops very minimally, and it's a lot.
Uh,
So you're generally
yeah.
doing single rounds in a day, and I'd imagine very rarely you're doing
Yeah,
two
that's the
loops.
vast majority. I have a few clients
Okay.
that like to do 36, but it's not often. It's probably 5 to maximum 10 days a year. I'll do that. So occasionally I'll
Wow.
have somebody request at, 7 a.m. and then with another group at 2. And sometimes the stars align for that. I actually have a good client that asked me to play golf with him at Spyglass Hill this Saturday. And I have a good client that wanted me to caddy for him at 7. And then I play with this gentleman at 2. So I'll go 36. I'll play the first round and then or caddy the first round and go play the second round at Spy because it's
Nice.
hard to turn that down too.
Nice. And
Yeah,
and do you do two bags or one?
close to 95% of the time I'm doing 2 bags, preferably the 5% of the time that I carry a single. I negotiate my tip beforehand so that
Okay.
it kind of compensates for not doing a double,
Right.
um, which is cool too. Because if somebody will,
Fair enough.
meet what you need to make the single worth it, then it's totally
Hey.
worth it, and it's
Right.
great. Everybody's happy.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
yeah,
you've got these clients. I mean, some of them are
yeah.
reaching out to you on Instagram. You may not have met them
Hmm.
before. Are you able now, having done this long enough, able to size up a golfer and say, all right, this person's a 30 handicap, they're this person's a 5 handicap, just by the dress, by the clubs.
I mean, I wish I could say that before they make their first swing, but typically I could guess their handicap within 3 strokes after either one strike of the golf ball or yeah, I mean, even somebody's practice swing might not be as good as their regular swing or their, you know. basically, I can size them up pretty quick. I can pretty
Yeah.
much, I can say, okay, well, this person, they should or shouldn't be teeing off on this tee box,
Right.
pretty quickly.
Yeah.
But I
Yeah.
usually ask somebody, how far do you hit your 7 iron? And then
Okay.
from there, I can pretty much guess how far they hit every single club in their bag. So that's
Yeah.
if I've never caddied for them before, um, that's pretty much all I'll ask them on the first tee. And then there's the short game too, though. So, you know, somebody's regular swing, I could be off, on what I think their handicap should be. But if they have an amazing short game, they can chip and putt.
Right.
Um, that's a game inside the game. That's where like a lot of the artistry of the game is.
Sure
And there's
is.
some people that don't hit the ball great, but their short game's phenomenal. And that's kind of like where my golf game fits into golf is my short game's just really good. If I could strike the ball better, I'd be a scratch golfer, but I have
Wow.
a scratch short game and I'm like a 7 or 8 ball striker, which, puts me in that like 3 to 4 handicap range.
Wow. That's incredible.
Yeah, it's I have fun playing,
Yeah.
I worked on my game. I played in junior college, so there was a
Okay.
there was a moment in time where I worked on my game. I was close to scratch. I never became scratch, but I've been down to a 1. Um,
Wow.
but that's junior college golf. That's a junior college golfer handicap. I wasn't good enough to play at the university I went to. I went to Cal Poly in San Luis
Oh,
Obispo,
okay.
and I wasn't that good, but I love the game and I don't play it very much anymore. Having a little baby girl, um, and when I have free time, I love to paint.
There you go. All right. All
Yeah,
right. Yeah, it's tough. I mean, you're getting paid to do a job and it's hard,
yeah,
especially Pebble
yeah,
Beach. I mean, I
yeah,
hear it's one of the highest, even though I'm sure you're getting on for free or nominal charge, it's one of the highest greens fees in the United States, right?
yeah. It's 600 or more. It might be 595 still, but they've raised it a few times the last few years. Uh, the resort stay, the thing is, you have to have a mandatory resort stay. I think the cheapest room is 1,000 a night or 1,100 a night, and
Wow.
you have to stay 2 nights to get one tea time. So it's a very expensive vacation, but all the restaurants on the resort are like phenomenal. Every single one of them incredible. The customer service is top notch. The course conditioning, the history. I mean, everything about it is a 5-star experience. So, I mean, that's why people come back, and that's why people
Sure.
keep paying it, even with the rise in the rates to experience it. They're
J-
booked 365 days a year,
Oh, I'm
um,
sure.
pretty well booked, probably, close to 90% capacity year round.
Wow. And I mean, do you get a free round if you book a hotel for a couple nights, or is that
Yeah,
you
no,
just
you still have to pay for the round of golf, but you get the foursome tee time. And if you stay 2 nights, you might have the option to play Pebble twice, but you at least get to book it one time. And then Spyglass Hill. I mean, a lot of that course is very underrated. They're going to be holding the Champions Tour major championship next year, and so Spyglass Hill is kind of coming up. It's hard to Pebble Beach is smart in that you know, people come there for Pebble Beach, so they put their marketing efforts towards Pebble Beach. But Spyglass Hill, shot for shot, is an absolute masterpiece in course design. It was Robert Trent Jones Sr., built in 1966. Pebble Beach, 1919, and then Cypress Point, not too far after Pebble Beach, which was designed by Alistair McKenzie, who was a contemporary of Robert Trent Jones. And so I feel like Robert Trent Jones just like poured his heart and soul into like the most magnificent piece of land with huge elevation changes. And I mean, every kick in the fairway, every shape to every green, the variety, the variability, the left to right shaped holes, right to left shaped holes. I mean, it's just like, I mean, to me, it's the greatest designed course that I've ever played. And Cypress Point isn't far behind. Um, but Pebble Beach, it's like the lay of the land, the simplicity, and the views. I mean, the views are untouchable. But I hold Spyglass Hill pretty high up there.
Yeah, you sound like you sure do. And how many courses are there in total at the whole Pebble Beach complex?
There's there's three within the gates of Pebble Beach. It's Spanish Bay, Pebble Beach, and Spyglass Hill. But they also own another course that's a little inland, which is the oldest course west of the Mississippi. West of the Mississippi, it's an 1898 course called Old Del Monte,
Okay.
and it's very short. It's 6,400 yards from the tips, and the screens are even smaller than Pebble Beach's greens, and it's a lot of fun. It's maintained well, but people don't typically play it on their vacations there.
Fair enough.
But I guess Pebble Beach owns it for like the locals.
Right. And so speaking of that, you said you get a lot of repeat customers, but
Yeah,
it's a public course though, Pebble Beach, essentially.
yep, it's a public course. Anybody can pay to play. Probably need to try to book in advance, close to a year though.
Wow.
It's it's
Wow.
it's booked up pretty far in advance, especially for, good tee times before 11 a.m. I would say if you want to play before 11 a.m., then you definitely need to book at least 9 months in advance. If you try to book within like 3 to 6 months, you're like going off, late in the day.
Right, right. The 3 o'clock slot.
Yeah,
So do you guys is there a caddy shack? Is there a caddy master? Like how was that
yeah,
set up? I know you said that you're not really using it that much. You do 2 to 5
yeah,
rounds a year, but tell us
yeah,
about that for
yeah,
the lower ranked caddies.
yeah. uh, yeah, there's a caddy shack inside the cart barn at Pebble Beach. That's where the caddies will typically hang out. It's not a very big room. It's probably only like 300 square feet with some couches and a bunch of pictures of all the caddies throughout the years.
Oh wow.
And yeah, and we have an independent uh, caddy service company called Caddy Services Incorporated. They just, I believe they just got bought by Troon Golf,
Okay.
and so they run courses for a lot of resorts out there, like Bandon Dunes, amongst others, and they're basically the middleman between the course and the caddies, so they assume, responsibility or liability so that Pebble Beach isn't, you know, getting caught in a lawsuit from a caddy doing something crazy and
Yeah,
getting hurt,
I've heard a
which is
little bit
smart.
about that, that it's become
Yeah,
like a thing where some of the caddy shacks, they don't really have it anymore. It's just basically on demand. They text because there's like been issues with lawsuits in the past. It's been 10
yeah,
years plus for me since I've
hmm
been in the game, but has that become like a
yeah,
thing now?
yeah, yeah. I'm sure there's been a lot of caddies that have tried to sue the course for some bad decision they made.
Right.
But yeah, Pebble Beach has had this company in place for probably about 22 years or
Oh,
so, and
wow. Okay.
and and so they handle our requests. We call the caddy office, we call in our requests, and they do all the scheduling, and they send out an email every single day, and it's kind of forecasted 2 weeks in advance, so you know your seniority, so you have a pretty good ballpark idea where you'll fall each day, so it's very organized.
Nice. So in other words, you don't have to show up at 6 o'clock in the morning to be called for a loop at
No,
12 o'clock.
exactly, which is which is which is huge. And when I started, it was that way. Like it, we got like a 4 hour block that we had to report, and we had to stay there the whole time. But through the grumblings of caddies, and we've got 350 caddies now, and
Wow.
so many guys that have been there over 20 years that caddies got a little pull. So they're grumbling mixed with some changes in technology. They've
Right.
got it down to a science so that caddies will only have to, you know, they'll know they're getting out within an hour period, or they're not,
Nice.
and
Wow.
they know the night before even. So they've gotten very organized so that there isn't 15 caddies hanging around just waiting and not knowing.
Right, and that's when they get into trouble too.
Yeah, it's a
So
wild bunch for sure.
yeah, so speaking of that, I mean, it was funny. I think you had mentioned before the show that they have a background check, which is something that they did
Yeah.
not do when I was a caddy, and that probably would have knocked out half of the caddies had they done a criminal background check during my day.
Uh, and there's no drug testing to this day.
Oh wow,
And,
okay.
because then that would knock out the other half.
We had a wild bunch and all types. And you had people who were stopping at the methadone clinic before the caddy before coming to the caddy shack,
Yeah.
and people who had criminal backgrounds, and the whole thing. And so it's good to hear there's a criminal background check, but I'd be interested to
Yeah.
hear just about like the different, you've got the kids, I guess, still in school, from
Yeah.
people who have been, who's the number one, how long is the number one? If you're 27, you've been there
Yeah.
18 years, who's
Yeah.
number one and how long have they been there for?
Um, Number one at Pebble Beach, his name is Rocket. I off the top of my head, I couldn't even tell you his real name. He's just known as Rocket, and he's been there. He has to have been there. I mean, maybe close to 45 years.
Oh, wow. All right.
And
And it's
then the
probably
next guy,
probably keeping them alive, all that
yeah,
walking.
yeah, honestly, for sure, for sure. And then the number one caddy that was at Spyglass Hill, he passed away after caddying for 38 years. He
Wow.
went out and carried two bags, and that night just passed away in his sleep a little less than a year ago.
Wow.
Which there was an interesting story with that. His name was Ron Parsons, and obviously first of the course. So the number two caddy started when he was real young, and just through a series of events, he's only about 48 years old, and he's the number two caddy at Spyglass Hill. He used to always work with Ron, and the day after he passed away, Tim Tipton went to work, and right on the first tee box, right by the starters podium, there was a baby geese the very next morning, and this baby geese followed, or baby goose, sorry, followed Tim around in his group for 18 holes. And
No.
yeah, and Tim was like calling Ron Parsons, calling the duck RP, or the goose, and he was making videos and saying, "Okay, RP," and the goose was walking ahead of the group, like across the street here and there, and Tim just kept talking and then making videos, and I ended up cutting a video together with Tim's commentary and this
Nice.
goose, and and saying RP, RIP Ron Parsons, we loved you, bro. Ended up getting like a pretty nice. It got some traction on social media, and then a local news company picked up the story and
Oh, wow.
posted it in their animal section of the news, and
There you go.
the family was and the family was like, just felt like it was a total blessing, that a caddy
That's
was
sweet.
getting some recognition, because
Yeah, yeah.
it can be a thankless job.
It definitely
Um,
can.
because you're a servant. It's not supposed to be about the caddy. It's supposed to be about the player. So like, you gotta have humility and be humble in
Yeah.
what I do.
How have
Yeah.
you found the players' treatment of you? I mean, does it kind of run the gamut of folks that are respectful and people that pretend that you don't
Yeah.
exist?
Yeah. I've had a I've only had, maybe, people always ask me that same question. How many assholes have you had? I bet you get a lot of bet you get a lot of assholes at Pebble Beach, but surprisingly, that's not the case. People are just so happy to be there. They're on vacation. They work their
Right,
butts off. A lot of people are successful, work so many hours just to like get that freedom for a vacation. So
right.
almost 100% of people are just very happy to be there, very grateful, and just
Great to hear.
happy to have that time to play the golf there. But I've had 2 rounds where I've experienced like, I mean, I hate to even use the word racism, but I've had a couple groups from a couple other different countries, and then was like disrespected pretty badly. Not to the point that I walked off the course, but to the point where it like, it put me in other people's shoes. Like I learned from it,
Yeah.
and it was kind of disappointing. And then two other times, um, 2 other times, I just had just a normal mutiny where one guy was just like, "Oh, that ball didn't break that way," and then it just like dominoed into like, the other golfer. And one of them was a four caddy for 4 people, and they were just like picking on me, and it all started with like, one guy in each group just saying like, "What? The ball didn't do that," or like, "Oh, that was a bad yardage," after they bladed or whatever. So those
Right.
were, I mean, even more painful than like, some people coming from another culture and, being rude or whatever. Um, but I mean, in 18 years, that ain't that bad.
Right. Yeah.
That's not that bad.
Yeah. I've had that mix with my kids just today, so I'll take
Yeah.
it. But so you mentioned like people are mostly on vacation, so you're not really dealing with
Yeah.
business people that are bringing clients along, or is it a
Oh, a
mix?
lot of that. A
Oh, you
lot of
still
that.
get okay.
A lot of that, lawyers, doctors, a lot of money managers or wealth advisors, bring a lot of people bringing clients. A lot of people
Okay.
bring clients, and then not only that, like a lot of big corporations, Goldman Sachs, Charles Schwab. Um, I mean, any big business you can think of has corporate groups out there where they're paying for like, they'll have one of their people from their business out there with 3 of their clients, from
Right.
whatever sector. So there's a lot of that happening. It's a perk in sales, if they got a good company. Then even smaller, much smaller companies, they'll bring their employees out. Um, to play Pebble Beach. It's I mean, if you're gonna take care of a client, there is no better
That's the
place to
spot to do.
to take
Yeah.
them. Yeah, 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 and yeah,
And have you noticed you're like, all right, this is clearly a client relationship. I'm gonna step back, or oh, it looks like he's
yeah.
about to make an ask of, try to close a deal. Let me just slip him his putter, and I'm gonna walk away and let him get it done. Have you been in those situations where it's like, all right, I got my spidey sense on?
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, a situation like that is like, I've caddied for a lot of different CEOs of a lot of big businesses. Um, and when the employees are paired together with the CEO, and you just see they're like a little tight, they're brown nosing, "Nice shot," and, kind of nervous, watching what they say. And
Oh, right, right.
it is funny when you see the pecking order, because as much as we don't want to think there's like a pecking order to life. I mean, I'm kind of outside that realm as the caddy. I'm there to do a job, but like
Right.
when you sometimes you see the pecking order when the boss is around, and it's kind of funny to see. I enjoy it.
Have you
Yeah,
any famous folks that you've caddied for?
yeah. Bill Belichick
Okay.
from which was kind of poor timing. He played in the Pro Am 2 weeks after they lost to the New York Giants, and you know he wasn't in the best of spirits. He
He's
was
never in the
definitely.
best of spirits, but
I
so that's
mean,
saying a
okay,
lot.
okay, you're 100% correct. He was, pushing little kids to the side that were like looking for autographs and stuff. Like he was
Yeah.
doing a favor. He was doing a favor to Pebble Beach to just show up,
Right.
and but he clearly didn't want to be there that year. And um, I helped Peyton Manning in the pro am.
Nice.
He was way cooler than you know he plays that cookie cutter role and kind of how he's presented in media, but that guy is uh he's cool.
Nice.
He's a man's man and super respectful and very, very fun and a decent golfer. Um uh yeah, just recently caddied for Danton Heinen from the uh hockey player for the Penguins. I mean, I've had Mario Lemieux before. Um I should have a list of like all the professional athletes that I've caddied for. Jeff McNeil, he plays for the New York Mets right now. Phenomenal
Yep.
baseball player, and I mean, there isn't many people that could go. And I say this firsthand, having caddied for a player that didn't make it to the PGA Tour. That's kind of how I ended up at Pebble Beach. But the talent that Jeff McNeil has as a golfer is like, and I know the level it takes to be a PGA Tour player, having been around so many in the Pro-Am and the Champions Tour event. But Jeff McNeil, wow, that guy, if he had decided a long time ago that he was just going to be a golfer, I truly think that he could have made the PGA Tour instead of
Wow.
Major League Baseball. Um, that said, he has no problem shooting in the 60s at all on
Wow.
any given day. Um, so he's the best athlete golfer that I've ever caddied for. And what other famous people? Chris Harrison from The Bachelor. I had a number of rounds with him for a number of years. Um, uh, uh, CEO of Trader Joe's is kind of a random one.
Oh
Dan,
yeah.
Dan Bain kind of slides in, like nobody. I mean, it's one of those. It's an interesting company, Trader Joe's, great
Sure is.
company. Uh, Roger Goodell,
Oh,
from
sure.
the commissioner, Peter Uberoth, who's part owner of Pebble Beach also, but the former MLB commissioner. Um, uh, let's see. I caddied in the pro am one year for Adam Hadwin. He's a Canadian professional. Um, well, he's from Canada. He's one of Canada's great players. Always top 75 in the world.
Well,
I caddied for him about 5 years ago in the pro am. His caddy actually had to um, leave because his wife went into labor, and my
oh wow.
buddy who was caddying in his group on that Thursday. The tournament started on Thursday, and he had to leave after the round. And and my friend developed a little bit of rapport with Adam, and Adam was like, "Bro, I need a caddy like ASAP. Like, you know, set me up with somebody good that you know." And so my friend Justin Kipena got me set up with Adam Hadwin for the last 3 days of the tournament, and it was a terrible weather here at Pebble Beach. Our round at Pebble on Saturday, it hailed on us. Like
Oof.
the greens turned white with hail on the
Wow.
ocean. But that Friday, the first round I ever caddied for Adam was incredible. The wind was blowing 30 or 40 miles an hour, like, you know, 3, 4 club winds, raining 45 degrees. It obviously hailed the next day, so it's freezing on that Friday. And Adam starts out bogey on 1 and 2 at Monterey Peninsula Country Club. We're standing on the tee box of the third hole. It's a par 3, and Adam, to my caddy friend, bends over on him and rips a loud fart right on my buddy, and he goes, "That's what I think about starting bogey." Then he goes on. He misses hole in one by a foot on that par 3, and then makes 6 more birdies and an eagle and shoots
Wow.
7 under, starting bogey in just atrocious weather.
Wow.
But the best part is this: uh, uh, we were in the group with this really funny straight laced Christian guy on the PGA Tour. I think he played in the President's Cup. His name is Ben Crane. He's past his prime now, but Ben Crane was this really, really, really funny guy. So he hears Adam fart and he goes, "Oh, so we can fart today? Like farts are not off limits today." And we're just like, "Yeah, you know." Or Adam's just like, "Dude, do whatever you want to do." And so couple holes later, Ben Crane starts jogging in the fairway, running by me and Adam, and just like rips this loud ass fart as he's like running, just being a goofball, having fun. And couple holes later, his amateur partner is a billionaire that I know. I don't want to say his name, but we're all huddled up because it's freezing, the wind's blowing, and like we're all just waiting on this tee box and we're like making a circle or whatever. And Ben Crane literally damn near butts his ass up against this guy's crotch and rips this fart right on this billionaire. And I was just like, I don't know. I
Man.
got a lot of pleasure out of it. I got a lot of pleasure out of it. It was very, very funny. But this guy did not skip a beat. And he told Ben Crane, "Well, I guess you have to be willing to shit your pants to win a farting contest." And I was just like, "All right, I like you. I like you even more now because it was like off the cuff. It was witty. It was in the moment. It was. I mean, it literally looked at like Ben Crane was, really trying to shit his pants there, and that was just always a great really great memory from the week. Adam ended up 18th place, and I had a good week. I had a very good
Nice.
week. He was generous. He cut me off half of the caddy's earning, gave the other half to his other caddy, and it was a good week. It wasn't my biggest week, but it was a good week. Yeah, Scott Farmer from Cintas. Cintas is a big business. They do a lot of like linen and uniform
Yes, I've heard of
service.
them. Yep.
Yeah, they're around countrywide. Scott Farmer, he's the king of the biggest tip. He's the king
Nice.
of the biggest tip. He played in one pro-am and the pro-am's 3 rounds and then it cuts to Sunday. That was the old format. It's changed a little bit, but he birdied 17 and 18 on on the third day to make the cut by one. So it was like this dream clutch finish where we were like hugging each other, like pumped. He executed
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
shots, and obviously the reads and the yardages are going to be perfect. And he had a pretty good Sunday. I think he ended up in sixth place, and yeah, he cut me off. He sent me a check that was like, "Wow, I love you, Scott Farmer. If you hear this podcast, I love you, bro."
You
And
know, it's a lot when it's just not cash. It's like cutting a check.
yeah, he wrote a check. Like,
I'll take it.
yeah, I don't know if I'll ever beat that week out there. Um, but super special. And then I've
Nice.
had Brett Bear, the last uh, 2 out of the last 3 years, and Brett Bear from Fox News. What's up, Brett? Absolutely love Brett Bear. He's there to golf. Um, it's business, it's business when it comes to the golf, which is what I like because I come from a competitive background and, I had a player that didn't quite make it to the PGA Tour. So, like, I love to compete. So, getting
Yeah.
with a golfer that can execute golf shots it's kind of what I live for. I mean, I
Nice.
treat every single person I caddy for as if they are PGA Tour pro. I never give up on them. I still triple and quadruple read every single putt, whether it's par, birdie,
Wow.
or whatever. Like I'm an absolute perfectionist. I since I video everything, I rewatch putts. Like if there's a putt that, like I had a putt on 12 where it was like this left middle pin that I was for certain it was like at the spot where it's gonna push left early. And like this not rookie caddy, he's been there for 4 years, but anyways, he was like, that putt's left edge, isn't it? And just asking me, because I've been there forever. I'm like, no, it's dead straight. It like pushes left at his feet. It might fall right back right at the end, but I wouldn't count on it falling right. So, I think it's um I think it's dead straight or even right center. And this caddy, based on where the pin was, like it actually went right at the hole and didn't push right or didn't push right to left early. And so it was like one of those putts where I learned from this caddy, and I'll put that in the memory bank because I had a misread too when I was caddying for Adam Hadwin. It was kind of a new green; it only been there a couple years. It was hole 13, and Adam didn't call me in on all of his putts, but every single time he did, I gave him a perfect read, except for one read, and it was like a newish green, kind of a pin that they don't usually go. And Adam's like, "What's this putt doing?" I'm like, "I think it's dead straight." But then he asked me like, well, if it did break, which way would it go?
Ooh.
And I was just like, I think I would think right center if anything at all. And he just hit this like perfect putt, right center, inside right. It was going straight, 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 straight. And then like a foot from the hole, it broke
Ah,
because the speed was so perfect. And I was just like, no, I mean, I hate missing reads, and pros will expose you. They will expose you if your read's off, because they're just on that much, they're on a different level,
sure, sure.
way different level.
And you had mentioned the PGA Tour that you were caddying for an amateur that was trying to make the PGA Tour, or
Yeah, that's how I got into caddying. I I picked up golf at 19. I went from like I started off probably around a 12 and got down to like four within a year, and then I was like, I'm gonna go play for this junior college, and I got better while I was there, but I was still like five or six every week on the team. It was a pretty good junior college team, and but when I went to go sign up to try out or whatever for the team, I had a friend who, no joke, picked up a club a year before me. He kind of inspired me to golf because he picked up a club at 18 and he was scratching a year.
whoa,
He was
that's
scratching a
unheard of.
year. Yeah, and then like probably it took he was golfing for maybe 14 months, and I was golfing with him, and he shot a, a 7 under par round, 65 after 14 months of golfing, and I was like just mind blown. I'm like, bro, you're coming to play college golf with me. He's like, I don't want to go to college. I don't care about going to college. He was like a surfer. And I'm like, you're coming and playing for this golf team. I don't even care if I don't even make the team because you're on the team. Like, you have a special gift, like, clearly has a special gift. And I had the coach actually. I was like, hey, you have to call this kid. You got to get him over here to play on this team. And he ended up being like, a top 10 player in the state after his first year of junior college. And then in his second year of junior college, he won the Southern California regionals. And then it goes to the state finals, and our coach's wife had a heart attack, and so I actually went in as the interim coach at the junior college to go support him at the state finals, and he shot 69, I believe, or 69-70, and he ended up losing state by a single shot, and then
Ah,
he got a scholarship to San Diego State.
nice.
We won all kinds of like city, county, city and county amateur golf championships all over California. And then he did well in the California amateur and was a great amateur player, played at San Diego State, turned pro. He did it without a sponsor. He won 7 or 8 mini tour events, but he went without a sponsor. He ran out of money. He didn't go to Q school his first 2 years pro because he didn't think that his game was ready. And then he ran out of money, didn't quite have his game where he wanted to. His game wasn't, I didn't feel like it was he should have tried to qualify for the PGA Tour those first 2 years pro because ignorance is bliss, kind of like you don't know any better. Like,
Mhm.
but then he started thinking, then things kind of built up, and he made it to the second to last stage of Q school, which is very hard to even get to that point. But he went 3 years and didn't make it through Q school all the way to the tour, and and he got his amateur status back. but I was certain he was going to make it to the PGA Tour. So I was caddying for him for about a year, and
Okay.
then my parents were like, are you going to work for your dad's construction company, or because you're not good at it? Why don't you go caddy at Pebble Beach, and you can go caddy for your friend Josh Worthen anytime you want? And I was like, that's a good idea. So I started caddying at Pebble Beach, thinking my best friend and I were going to be on the PGA Tour together someday. It didn't work out, and part of me was like, you know, after 4 or 5, I'm like, what am I doing caddy? I wanted to be on the PGA Tour with my best friend. I even went out and caddied for another player on the web.com tour, or the
Hmm.
Corn Ferry tour, for a week. And I was like, it was different caddying for my best friend versus somebody that I just met. And so
Right.
like I was like, okay, I don't want to do that. And then I quit caddying for a while, went and worked at a produce cooler where all the produce comes in, and then ships out and all the semi trucks. And I did that for 6 months, and I just didn't see the upside. The plant manager wasn't making, what I thought would be worth working 60 hours a week in the
Right.
ag business versus for me working, 25 hours a week caddying. Um, it just, but then it was like at that moment going out there and working at a produce cooler that I realized like caddying is my gift. I absolutely love this. I've got the same clients coming to see me that I've been seeing for like the last 6 years. Now I've got clients that I've had all 18 years or 17
That's
years or
incredible.
16 years, made a bunch of relationships, have done like commission paintings for a lot of these successful clients of mine that just love me, and
Wow.
and uh, and making new clients, new friends, and just um, I don't know, just trying to love up on people on some golf course and literally just try to just be the best caddy I can, like every single day.
Awesome. So you got
Yeah.
some tips for golfers out there? I think we got one that we share, but from what I saw on Instagram, so want to hear from you. What do you think for your average, 20 stroke golfer? What do you recommend?
Number one, chip and putt. Number one, chip and putt, because ultimately a putter forgives all sins, or a good short game can kind of forgive a bad long game. So I would say spend more time chipping and putting, and um, just be in reality, like have fun first and foremost. You don't have to, it's not how good you are at golf. It's like, I mean, if you're not on the PGA Tour and it's not your job, it's not about how good you are at golf. It's how fun you are to to play with, you
Right.
know.
It's good. It's a
Like
good
you
point.
want to be more, it's more about how fun you are to play with than it is how good you are. And so if you want to get good, you're gonna have to put in the hours. But if you're not putting in the hours, at least be fun to play with. Don't be making excuses. Don't be doing this and that. But that said, like, you know, um, break down the putts. Break down your putts. Like you've got your target line. Let's say it's downhill. How downhill is it? Like if you have a 10-foot putt, how hard do you need to hit the it's a downhill putt. How much force do you need to put on this 10-foot putt? If you hit it on a flat surface, if you hit a flat surface putt 2 feet, would that have enough force for it to roll 10 feet? Like you have to break down like that. Like if you tell somebody a 10-footer is 75%, that means if you're on a flat putting surface, you'd be trying to hit the ball to stop 7.5 feet.
Hmm.
And so if you got a downhill putt and the caddy says hit it 75%, that means hit it 7.5 feet. And
Right.
that's what you'd want to feel on a flat putting surface. And then um, get an actual a target, like put at some imperfection in the green, like use it as a reference point. You want to go 2 inches
Gotcha.
2 inches right of that imperfection in the green. Like you got to be super super precise, like, and that's where like I try to take all the thought of that out of that for my players. Like this is a little secret of mine. I've noticed a couple caddies are picking up on it, but I will literally, since it's a non-tournament round, this is another thing. It's that I do for my players, which it's almost like my own rule set, like my own Caddy Whisperer rule set, because I kind of operate off of this slogan that Bob Hope came up with, which is I would never lie, steal, or cheat on a golf course. That's what my caddy's for. And if my players aren't gambling for money or in a tournament, I'm gonna set the ball up in the rough absolutely perfect. I'm gonna bend over, break my back all day for my players. I'm gonna set the ball up absolutely perfectly because if the ball's sitting down in a terrible spot, I'm like, yeah, I hit that 7 iron 165, 5 yards left, 5 yards below the hole, like, and the ball sitting in a hole, it's like, dude, I'm not even gonna, I mean, I'm wasting my breath. So instead of wasting my breath, I tell my player, this isn't you, this is me. I want to control the variables here. I want you to make pars and birdies. This is not a tournament. You're not a pro. We're out here to have fun. You just spent 5 grand to go play golf for 3 days. Like, we're going to enjoy ourselves. And
Yeah.
again, I'm doing this for you. You just golf your ball. You just swing it, but let me control the variables for you. And it's kind of an unspoken thing that when my clients come to see me, they know they're getting perfect lies the whole day. And the reads on the greens are going to be broken down as scientifically as
Nice.
possible. And there's another thing that I was going to say that I do that I'll touch the green like caddies or players, they're not supposed to touch the green. It's called touching the line of your intended putting line, and it's like against the rules in tournament golf. But like this isn't tournament golf. So like I'll
Tournament
put my
golf.
finger on the green and just give it like a little rub that creates a little shadow from the little just rub with my finger, a little 1 inch little mark that like you can barely see, but you can see it. And it's like, there it is.
Right.
That is it, and I'll put it exactly how far away from the ball. Let's say it's that nasty, 10-foot putt with 3 feet of break that's a a, a 25% putt. I want you to hit this 2.5 feet right at this little spot that's 2.5 feet from you, and you can walk in it. If you hit the line with perfect speed, just start walking to the hole because you're gonna make it. And
Yep.
that's the type of confidence that I give my players, and they eat it up. They overachieve. Um,
Nice.
they they perform, and they have faith, and they believe in what I'm saying, and I pump them up and give them that just
Nice.
added confidence. Like, hey, this is your day today. Like, you can do anything, and here's the facts. Like, we got the facts here. There's no guesswork here. You hit that line at the perfect speed and it doesn't go in, I take all the blame. But one thing, don't forget, blame me but pay me, okay?
So let me ask you, one of the things that I like to do is use my putter more. And so I feel like a lot of, people, if you're not a scratch golfer, they're paying too much attention to the pros who have, such a dialed in short game. But if
Yeah.
you're 5 feet off the green,
Yep.
you're going to be much more accurate using your putter versus a wedge. What do you think
Yeah.
about that? Right.
Now
All
we're
right.
talking. Now we're
Yes.
talking. Thank you.
Yes.
100%, 100% agree with you. 100, especially on the downhill ones, like in the rough downhill
Oh, they're
through
going
the,
to end up in the bunker on the other side.
yeah, putt it. You'd be surprised how well people do putting through rough. And since I set the ball up, I always tell people, um, I just basically play year-round winter rolls, but I'll set the ball up in the rough and I go, trust me on this. You're going through a foot of rough and there's 4 degrees of loft on your putter. There's 4 degrees. It's gonna float the rough, and when it hits the rough, it's already gonna have that like tumbly. Like just put it like you're on, literally put it like you're on the green. And so I'm a huge fan of putting from the rough, a huge fan of it. And yeah, people can benefit from putting out of the rough, especially if they can't chip good. If they can't chip good, then, you know, way better off putting. But people are prideful, people, sometimes
Yeah, that's it. Well,
people are
and
prideful.
that's it. And that leads to, I think, a lot of golf mishaps is people they're swinging for the fences,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
they're hitting their driver when they shouldn't. I mean,
Yes.
it's
I
less
totally
of an
agree.
issue on a links course like Pebble Beach, but if you're playing
Yeah.
in a course that's got narrow fairways, a lot of trees,
Yeah.
I tell people
Yeah.
don't hit your driver, leave it in the bag and pick up the 3 wood, and you're going to
Yeah.
be so much better off. And
Yeah.
that, yeah, maybe you'll sacrifice 8 to 10 yards in distance, but you're going to hit the fairway and not have to go chase a ball into the poison ivy.
I totally agree. Um, yeah, less is more. I mean, that's golf course management. A lot of people don't. They just grab their driver on every hole, and it's like there's a lot more to gain in playing a club that has less dispersion. You know what I mean? Like, if it only goes 200, with your hybrid, but your driver goes 250, you follow that same line, to the right with the hybrid, it's going to end up, maybe just in the rough. But if it's driver, it's like 20 yards deep in the trees. And like, if you're inside, if you hit a 3 wood to 150 to 100, you're going to be probably more accurate than if you're 50 or 60 yards out taking like a half swing with like a lob wedge or, so. Yeah, I try to help people make the right decisions, you know?
Any clubs that you recommend against, or any clubs that are essential? I mean, for me, you got to have a 5 iron. You
Yeah,
got to have that sand wedge.
yeah,
What do you feel about a 60-degree club? I mean, there's all these like trends in golf
yeah,
clubs that come and go, and I mean, the Big
yeah.
Bertha golf clubs used to be the size of like a head. Now they've shrunk; they're not so big anymore. What are your thoughts on all that?
Yeah. I feel like when it comes to equipment, if the clubs were bought in the last 15 years, that there's been enough technology change that even 10-year-old clubs, 15-year-old clubs are still very good. But the 60 does have the most room for error. So I definitely think that there's a lot of people that have a 60-degree club in their bag that shouldn't have one in the bag.
Really? Okay.
They have that higher lofted club, but there's also way less room, or there's way more room for error with a 60 degree. So, I mean,
Wow.
unless you're flushing a 56 degree, like you should not be, you know, hitting a 60. But almost everybody has a 60 degree in the bag. Or I mean, pretty much the standard, a driver, a 3 wood, maybe a 5 wood. Hybrids are super popular and
Yeah.
very effective golf clubs. So there, a lot of players could benefit from getting a 4 hybrid instead of a 4 iron, and a 3 hybrid, obviously. A 3 hybrid instead of a 3 iron,
Oh
maybe a
wow.
four
Okay.
hybrid instead of a 4 iron. Because a lot of people can't hit their 3 or 4 iron. It's like, oh no, they're not that club. Well, get a hybrid because it's gonna be a lot of people are better off with like a hybrid.
More
Even
forgivable.
yeah, they're more forgiving. Um, but yeah, club technologies. I feel like it's about maxed out. It's kind of marketing at this point
I
because
think so. Yeah.
even drivers, like my drivers, got to be close to 10 years old now. It's a TaylorMade M1, and I get zero performance difference when I hit a friend's brand new club. Like
Really? Yeah.
I get no
Yeah.
performance distance
Oh,
from
yeah,
it.
but you know what the difference is?
But
$1,000.
yeah, yeah,
That's the only
exactly,
difference.
exactly. And my driver is free. Like I've paid I think for three or four of my clubs. I actually inherited my TaylorMade irons. They're P770s from I think they're 4 or 5 years old, but our vice president passed away at Pebble Beach, and I caddied for him and his sons for a lot of years, and I was really
Okay.
tight with their sons, and that there's one of their sons gave me his dad's brand new irons when he passed
Wow.
away. And so like my irons are super special to me, and
Yeah.
I'm grateful for those. And uh, my driver actually came from one of my favorite painters. He's a pop surrealist, and he's like, I got the new M3. Do you want this M1? I'm like, yeah, it's better than my 15-year-old Titleist. It's 5 years
Right.
newer.
Yeah.
And so I love that because I love this artist. He paints incredible paintings. And yeah, I started painting, and my friend's like, "Hey, my mom's dating this guy, Mark Bryan. You should check out his art." And I looked at his art. I'm like, "Bro, take me to this guy. I gotta learn. I gotta hang out with this guy." And so I helped him with his golf game, and he helped me with my painting game.
Nice. Tell us about that.
Yeah. Uh, I was 30 years old. Went through what at the time I thought was a very tough breakup with a girl, and I've just always loved art. And I was like, I'm getting brushes, I'm getting an easel, I'm gonna get some paint, and I'm gonna make some art. And it started off making like Basquiat, just kind of street looking, just all over the place. Definitely no aesthetic value. Um, but the paintings looked worked on. I mean, they're all over the place. I mean, they're schizophrenic. I mean, like my first painting has like a painting of Tiger Woods' head along with like the devil and Jack Nicklaus and Donald Trump and a goat and Benjamin Franklin and like the makeshift of a body with all these different objects. And I mean, all in one painting makes no sense, totally incoherent. And then I was like, you know, that's cool. But then I kind of became obsessed with like photorealism and and was like, I'm gonna do whatever it takes to paint a painting that looks like exactly like the photo, kind of like that one with the horse. It's
Oh
like
wow,
this
yeah.
this sunset painting, and this one has some work to do. But I mean, trying
Nice.
to get the right values and color, and just really trying to. And so now that I've done like a decent handful of like photorealist paintings where people are like, that's a that's not a picture, that's a painting that you did. um i'm I'm like, okay, so I kind of like crossed that bridge, but then just studying fine art, looking how art's evolved over the years and everything, I'm like, because that's a grind. I mean, it takes me like 100 hours to do a painting, which is the
Wow.
separation of like an amateur artist like myself and a true gifted professional, is that they're going to produce what it takes me 100 hours. They're going to produce it in 10 hours. Like in 2 days, they're just going to bing bang bing bang bing. Just the colors just flow. Their drawing just flows. A lot of people are classically trained. I'm not. I learned on YouTube. Um, um, but so now I'm like, I'm working on a couple photorealistic paintings right now, but I'm like kind of looking forward to getting less. I don't know, getting looser. I guess I could say getting looser, and maybe exploring abstract art.
Okay.
Um, you know, with maybe more of an emphasis on color and shapes.
Nice.
But I'm not there yet. I got the kid now, so like
Yeah.
I golf 3 or 4 times a year. I'm painting 5 or 10 hours a month instead of 100, or maybe not 100, but 40 hours a month or
Right.
more. And I'm just becoming a family man, I guess.
Yeah, well, I know how that is. It keeps you busy, that's for sure. So,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
it for me it's definitely calmed me down in a way, when you have the
Mhm.
2-year-old arguing about sock colors at 6 o'clock in the morning, you learn to you learn to just know what's important and what's not. And so for me it's
Is that what
definitely
they're doing it too? They're arguing about,
yeah.
oh man.
Oh, and 3 is even worse. But I mean, that's also the cutest phase too. So, I mean,
Yeah,
the joy outweighs the pain by 100 to 1. So,
yes.
in the moment, it may not, but
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I just got back from Costco with our little baby, and that was like, what kind of demon possession does Costco give you?
yeah, well, yeah, that's a booby, it's a booby trap all over the place there. Yeah, it's
Yeah,
a tough one, but
like, but it's beautiful.
yeah, it sure is. Well, Josh, it's been great having you on the
Yeah.
show. And how can people find out more about you?
Well, Caddy Whisper on Instagram and Facebook and Twitter, but and TikTok.
Oh
TikTok
wow.
I actually have even more followers, which is totally crazy. But my business and my contacts and most personal connections come through Instagram, and it's
All right.
Caddy with a IE at the end underscore whisperer, and I'm responsive to people, and it's where I showcase my players' best moments.
All right. Yeah, you've got some great videos up there and some really nice videos of the seventh hole as well. And maybe we could
Yeah,
just end with that if you could tell us a little bit about
yeah.
the seventh hole at Pebble Beach.
Oh, it's the greatest short hole in the world. It's on the tip of a little landmass that's called Arrowhead Point because from an aerial view, it's shaped exactly like an arrowhead, and it's right at the tip. It's where you're most exposed to all the elements. It's almost its own weather pattern there,
Microclimate.
and it's very iconic. It's where I had a player, Luke Hudson, former MLB baseball pitcher, made a hole in one, and it kind of put my Instagram on the map. He had his father in the group, his brother, his best friend, and then in the group behind us on hole six green was another one of his brothers and best friends, and then the group ahead of us on 8T was I think we had a brother in that group with all
A
their
lot of
best
brothers.
friends. So Luke Hudson makes a hole in one on seven with this gorgeous shot, played it perfect, spun it from past the hole into the cup, and then he got bum rushed by his family from 8 and 6. They all came running to the tee box,
Nice.
and the video's gone viral a couple times throughout the years, and it
Nice.
kind of put my caddy whisperer on the map. So one of those
Nice.
extra special golf shots that
Yeah.
it's just extra special.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's the I mean that's yeah, as you said, the most probably the most famous golf hole in the United States, if not the world. And
Yeah,
yeah, right on Monterey Bay. It's doesn't get much better
yeah,
than that.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Very grateful, super grateful to be a part of the history of Pebble Beach, and also grateful to be on your show. I've truly
Yes,
enjoyed
well,
the
great
podcast.
having you, and yeah, it's been a pleasure, and thanks for being on.
Yeah, appreciate you, Marco.